We have a lot of gorgeous hanging baskets and planters here at Anderson Seed and Garden. As you can see, we've got some beautiful ones that are in bloom, but it's difficult to keep them blooming and looking good all summer long. So there's a couple tricks that we use here at the store to keep our planters, especially our hanging baskets out in front of the store and out and back, and the ones that we're selling looking really good. And we'll show you what some of those secrets are. Usually you want to start off with a slow release fertilizer, kind of like the Osmocote. Osmocote is a little pellet that you put in the planters or in the hanging baskets that will gradually feed the plants a little bit of fertilizer, a little bit of nutrient every time you water. Now the Osmocote comes in a lot of different formulations. One of our favorites is a 14-14-14 fertilizer, and that's what this one is, and it breaks down very gradually. It's a nice balanced fertilizer, so it's great for hanging baskets, it's great for planters, any type of containerized plant. The Osmocote will work great, and Osmocote comes in a couple different sizes. And you just take, for a hanging basket about this size, we'd take probably 2 to 4 tablespoons and just sprinkle that all over inside the planter with a pot like this one. This one's a little bit bigger pot. So as you can see, it's probably about a 20-inch square pot. We'd probably end up using 5 or 6 tablespoons, and we just sprinkle that all the way through this planter, and then for about 3 months to 4 months, the Osmocote will break down very gradually, feeding all the plants that are in there. And it's great for flowering plants, so it'd be good for petunias, it'd be good for calibrachoas. It'll make them continue to bloom and look really good, but it's also good for your vining plants, so it'll provide enough nitrogen to get them to cascade and to get them to grow and to look really good as well too. So the Osmocote, or there's a lot of other good slow release fertilizers that you want to use. The key is that you make sure you use a slow release fertilizer, so feed them very gradually through the whole summertime, because we want them to look good when we take them home, but we also want them to look good for the rest of the season. And it's important that you continue fertilizing, because if you stop fertilizing, they'll quit blooming and they won't look very good. The other thing that we do is we use a water-soluble fertilizer, one we can mix in water and then water the plants with it. One of our favorites is this Blooming and Rooting from Fertilome. Now the Blooming and Rooting looks a lot like Miracle-Gro. It's a little blue crystal that you mix in water and water your plants with it. So we will use it at least once a week, but sometimes we'll even use it twice a week to really give our plants a boost of nutrient. The water-soluble fertilizers, like the Blooming and Rooting, are quickly absorbed by the leaves and utilized by the plant, and so you get a quick burst of growth that you wouldn't get with a slow release fertilizer like the Osmocote. Great thing about the Blooming and Rooting is it's a very high phosphorus fertilizer. So first number is nitrogen, the second number right here is phosphorus, and the third number is potassium. And that phosphorus is what stimulates flower production, and it's just going to encourage a lot of blooming on your plants. So this is great for hanging baskets, great for planters. It's really good for any fruiting or rooting vegetables as well too. So it's excellent for tomatoes, excellent for peppers, because they're producing fruit. But a product like the Blooming and Rooting from Fertilome will really encourage a lot of blossom production and get your plants to just continue blooming and look great all summer long. If you have some plants that are cascaders that really like to crawl out, and you want your hanging baskets to really droop and dangle down, use a product like the All-Purpose from Bicor. Now the All-Purpose from Bicor is a more balanced fertilizer. It's got more nitrogen in it than the Blooming and Rooting, and it's going to encourage a lot of those cascading plants, like your cascading petunias, or anything that's going to crawl, like what am I thinking about? The sweet potato vines. Any of your vining plants are really going to vine out and look really good because of that extra nitrogen that's in here. So we'll actually alternate the All-Purpose with a product like the Blooming and Rooting to keep the plants looking really good. Now if you look in this planter we were looking at before, there's some really good cascading plants in here. So this Calibrachoa, this Million Bells, is going to cascade out, and if we use a product with a higher nitrogen, it'll actually crawl down to the concrete here and crawl across the ground. And same thing with this sweet potato vine right here. The sweet potatoes, they love to crawl. So we can actually, with the proper fertilization, we can get this to crawl maybe even 3 or 4 feet this summer and just crawl across the ground. So in a planter like this, it's essential that you give them the high phosphorus to produce flowers and to produce blooms and keep the flowers looking good. But if you really want them to cascade and look really nice, you've got to use that nitrogen as well too. So it's important that you use a slow release fertilizer like the Osmocote, but it's also important to use a water-soluble fertilizer when you can mix in the water, water the plants with it. Make sure and get it all over the leaves, as well as watering the soil with it, because it'll pick it up through the leaves as well as up through the root system, and it will keep your plants blooming and looking great throughout the entire summer.